Next Curve.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Next Curve Rethink podcast episode and our Comtech series, where we talk about and break down the latest tech and industry events and happenings, and in this case, devices that matter into the insights that matter. And I'm Leonard Lee, Executive Analyst at Next Curve. And in this Next Curve Rethink podcast, we're going to be sharing takes from our use of Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold7 powered by Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy. Wow, that was a mouthful. By the way, that's an SoC, System on Chip. And I'm joined by my good friend and fellow analyst and collaborator, Prakash Sangam, Principal Analyst at Tantra Analyst. How's it going, Prakash?
Pretty good, Leonard. Glad to be back on our show again.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're really anxious to share your perspectives on
always. I'm always to share my perspective.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to hear.
I know. Well, I'm really interested in getting your take. But before we get started, please remember to like, share, react, and comment on this episode. Also, subscribe here on YouTube and on Buzzsprout to listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Opinions and statements made by my guests are their own and don't reflect mine or those of Next Curve. And we're doing this to provide an open forum for discussion and debate on all things consumer electronics, tech, cloud, AI, and quantum computing. So with that, Prakash, let's get started. What do you say?
Oh, that was an impressive disclaimer.
But hey, let's start off with a little bit of history. So Samsung Galaxy Unpacked, which you propose should be renamed Unfold, right? 2025 occurred or took place in Brooklyn, New York, about 3 weeks ago now, right? And,
Yep.
And I noticed that you received a test or a trial device, and that just happened to be Galaxy Z Fold7, basically on the day of the event, right?
Yes, indeed, yeah.
So, I also got mine. So the folks at Samsung were nice enough to send me a test unit as well, which I'm going to be, have been using for over a week now, but just wanted to compare notes, man.
Absolutely, yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So what?
I'm almost ready with my review article. It'll be coming soon in next couple of days.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm ready to answer your question.
Okay. So
I usually and I usually don't publish my reviews. Just trying it out. I try to use it as a daily driver for at least a couple of weeks. In this case, 3 weeks, so that I use it as a regular device, not just a test device. So yeah,
I think we might want to kick things off with this because the Samsung folks announced this morning that the Galaxy Z Fold as well as the Flip Fold7 have done pretty well actually out of the gate. So
right.
They had a press release. Some of the details there, at least the ones that are relevant for the Galaxy Z Fold7, were related to the pre-orders, which I guess were the highest in history.
Yep.
Or at least in the history of that portfolio. Demand apparently continues to be strong and outpaces the previous generation by 25%.
Yeah, it's impressive. Yeah, because typically smartphones are flat, right? So the market is flat.
Yeah, it is. It's a bit anemic at the moment, and so the Galaxy Z Fold7 is also outpacing its previous model by nearly 50% since availability on July 25th. So looks like it's starting off pretty well. I mean, as many folks probably know, the foldable category has been sort of a niche category for quite some time. In fact, years. And I'll just tell you why I was interested in getting my hands on this. This is my first fold, believe it or not.
Okay.
Because before then, I didn't even really think this mattered, right? And the reason why I think this is really important is because when we went to IFA last year, right, we saw Honor and Huawei unveil a number of foldables that were really eye-opening, right? And, And my interest in this is largely technical and how they engineered now these ultra thin, ultra light foldables. So it's a little bit of context of why I was really keen on getting my hands on this and checking it out.
And I think, as separate now, if you look at the history of Fords, I've been using since Ford 4, I've been a big
Yeah.
fan. But this is a much larger, much significant, almost magnitudes kind of um, upgrade, right?
Yeah.
Compared to the previous ones, and it comes in. It basically, as I'm saying it in my article, it's an it's a no compromise foldable phablet or foldable tablet or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, there are good use cases, especially productivity use cases, but they all come with a compromise that you might be using it this larger display, tablet kind of a display, maybe 10% of the time, 15% of the time in a day,
Yeah. Yeah.
more or less of that sort. But you still had to carry this extra baggage, extra weight, and a thick brick-like thing in your pocket all the time, right? So a lot of people were not ready to make that compromise for this only 10 to 15% of utility, which a lot of them agreed they needed it. So, which I think is totally removed now. You get a standard flagship smartphone most of the time when you're using it, but when you need it, it is a tablet, an extra thin tablet. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that really astonished me, and I know you did kind of a comparison to some of the competing models from other OEMs, is how thin it looked when it was presented at Galaxy Unfold.
Yeah.
2025. Yeah. Hint, hint, Samsung. And that's what really caught my eye was how thin it was.
Yeah.
And now that I've been using it, I'm really astonished at how cool it runs. That thermal design of this particular phone is pretty remarkable because one of the things that I've noticed with iPhone even, right, is that if you run, let's say you're not even playing games, you're just doing productivity or just web browsing, sometimes the phone can get rather hot, right? But because of these new thin designs, it seems like there may be some thermal advantages as well as some unique engineering techniques that Samsung use to dissipate the heat. But I mean, this thing runs cool for most of the workloads and applications that I've been using, and I've been using it quite extensively over the last week and a half, and that's one of the things that really stuck out for me. And so, one of the things that I did write about was undoubtedly there's going to be some credit due to Snapdragon 8 Elite and the power efficiencies of their CPU cores as well as their NPU and just overall, the power efficiency of that SoC. And so it's something that I will probably need to dive into a bit more, but it's something that is very evident as I've been using this device. So, kudos to the Samsung engineering team for really delivering on something that seems pretty performant, but more importantly, has some nice thermal characteristics that make prolonged use of the device comfortable. Because sometimes, these things can get uncomfortable. They can get too hot. And
the foldable, a lot of the intense use cases, you use it unfolded, so that you use extra area for dissipation of that heat as well.
Right.
Yeah, so that.
But here's the curious thing, though.
They've done. And then
pretty good.
Then they discussed that during in some detail, and I think they had a couple of blogs on it as well, wherein the material they've used is basically very thermally efficient, and they're using and it is not just titanium that they used elsewhere. It is an aluminum and mixed alloy, and also the display. it is not just pure plastic display. There's some element of glass in it as well. So if you can, you basically see a noticeable difference between the previous folds and this, even in your unfolded display. But one of the observation that when you're opening the folded, it looked the plastic kind of a display, not crest
plastic
high end. But you don't see that much with Fold 7.
I mean, I have to, it still looks plasticky. I mean,
correct, yeah, but relatively I'm saying, yeah.
And
the one way I compare that is compare how something looks on outside display and when you open it and how it looks. Used to be a huge contrast between those outer and inside display, but no longer. So yeah, I mean it is a plastic display, but the point is how much
how plasticky
it is. It feels and looks is the quality.
Yeah. And so why don't you share maybe a few bullet points on some of the things that really stood out for you about the device, right? Maybe not the usage quite yet. Maybe we'll talk about that in a moment, but in terms of the device itself. So I mentioned thermal, that really has stuck out for me. What are some of the other things that the audience should probably tune into as they're evaluating the device?
So obvious, I mean, the big thing is weight. I mean, I've been using Ford, and then it was a constant reminder that you have a huge brick in your pocket when you're walking around.
Right.
You don't have that. That absence is I think it is more to be experienced rather than explained in my view when you're using it. So when you're moving from a standard smartphone user to this, you don't see that difference, and that is the main point. But if you are a previous Ford user, you see that difference, very well, right?
Yeah, one of the things in terms of the device that I thought was a little bit weird, and awkward, is that camera bump. It's massive.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: it is a very, very thin device, especially when it's open. For my hands, it sometimes is difficult to handle because it's so thin. And for those of you who do actually have an opportunity to mess around or check out the device, then it's something you'll notice. So folks with bigger hands are probably going to have maybe a little bit of a challenging time handling the device and not dropping it. I've almost dropped it on several occasions. But this also makes for a weird experience because it's very difficult to just, put this on a countertop or a table with the screen face up. Right. You have to have it down.
That I agree. So when I looked at it, initially handled it, since the camera bump is thicker, I was thinking it is, the center of gravity is higher and it would topple much easier.
Yeah.
But I did not find it. Maybe they balanced it properly, that the center of gravity is not very high. So
this is not picking on Samsung because all of the offerings are like this because they've been trying to incorporate premium grade and premium performance cameras on these things. So whether it's Honor or Oppo, you have these ridiculous, quite honestly, ridiculous camera bumps. I mean, this tends to be a smaller profile than some of the Chinese OEMs have offered.
Compared, because if you look at it, is the whole top end of the back, right?
Yeah.
Right. So and I agree with you when you put it on a countertop.
Yeah, it wobbles like crazy.
It's very wobbly, and then it's little bit,
But here's
nice, And then one thing I have complained is I expressed it to Samsung folks as well. Slippery. The phone is very slippery, and most of today's phones are, right?
Yeah.
I think if they put a textured side to it, I think they can stop almost 50% of the falls. When you're trying to open the phone, unfold it, it becomes a little bit clumsy, and because it doesn't have indentation inside, that makes it easier. So you have to depend on the grip to open it up.
Yeah.
If you don't have grip and it is so slippery, I think the chances of dropping it are very high because it's slippery. And the edges are square, that gives some grip compared to a totally rounded
Yeah.
edges, but it is still slippery to hold in my view. So
yeah, and that's why I like some of the materials that Lenovo uses on their flips in particular. The grip is, you get a really sturdy grip, and they use grip friendly materials, right? Textured materials. But the other thing I like about the screen is that instead of this like eye candy oversaturated mode that they typically ship their smartphones with, it's much more toned down and color accurate, right? And so when you're taking photos or videos, what you see on screen is much more representative of what you're actually seeing in your physical environment, right? And the lighting in the environment. And so I think that's a big improvement. And that's the challenge I had with a lot of the Samsung devices, and quite frankly, most Android devices. And so I noticed that shift, which I think is a positive. And for creators, anyone who wants to use it as a creative device, is going to be much better reference display for them than what we've seen in the past, where the blues are just like, you can get high off of that stuff. It's just so overdone. So that was a pleasant surprise. So good job. Somebody's listening. All right. So let's talk about usability really quickly. So what were some of the high points in terms of usability thus far?
As I said, I'm a big Fold user. I think the learning for anybody coming to Foldable is how you balance the usage of outer screen versus the larger inner screen. It is very natural that the moment you start using the phone, open it up and start, use the larger screen. But I think the battery life, the key is how you balance that. For most of the things that you don't need a larger screen, like checking out your email or checking your text updates and stuff like that, best to use the outer screen and keep the inner screen for the users you really need it, like any consumption of long form content, even editing long form and long email writing, looking at PowerPoints, Excel spreadsheets, editing, and obviously you cannot creating is hard, but you can definitely edit them much more easily in a better way than any phone for sure, right? So I think finding the balance is critical in my view, for longevity of battery life. If you use the unfolded display most of the time, you will definitely have to recharge before end of the day.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I found that the battery life has been pretty decent, and I mostly use it unfolded just because I want to, get used to that mode of using the device. But it seems like the power management is pretty good.
Yeah.
Really good. Going back again to my early reference on how the thermals are pretty astounding, right? So far, I see it as easily an all-day battery life device.
If you use it as a tablet most of the time, then I think you might just recharge. If finding that balance, I think, is key in my view.
Yeah. Okay. But any other improvements, like notable improvements?
Obviously, the obvious ones are basically size and shape, or the huge ones. And the hinge itself is hinge, and the crease are much less visible for sure.
Yeah.
And then and I see that the hinge was extended quite a lot in the previous ones, which means if it, in my experience, I written it about it as well. If it falls usually falls on the corner, and it falls on the hinge, then that kind of starts the unwinding of the phone, and the display starts, the plastic display starts coming off, and so on.
Oh, okay.
Now with this, the hinge is not that protruding, so I think it's much more protected. And they mentioned that they've improved the hinge performance as well. And even on when you're handling the phone, it feels more robust than before, right?
Mhm.
The feel of it. And biggest improvement when it is not folded is width. The earlier you in all since the fold first, they were very narrow kind of bar phones
Yeah.
folded. It was very hard to type with two hands,
Mhm.
and it was so heavy. It was hard to hold in one hand and
And
type,
type. Yeah.
right? With this, that is gone. But with since it is now wider, it the grip is far better than Fold 6, and single hand usage is better, is perfect for the people with average hand like me. And I think there are improvements in the software as well, both from
Mm.
Google and Samsung. I think the best use case of any tablet is multi-window.
Mhm.
It's much more advanced, and you can
Yeah.
arrange them
Resize
as you
them.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, resize them, put wherever you want them, make it either a pop-up or standing and so on. One suggestion I would advise Samsung is make it more intelligent. Now it is static, you have to manually do it, but you can make it more intelligent as well. For example, if I'm typing an email and I'm mentioning an attachment, you know that I'll go check my attachment and my folders and find a file to attach, maybe opening my files window so that I can easily search without going
Mm.
and opening it myself, or
Yeah.
making it more intelligent placing of these multi windows and multiple
Yeah.
windows. I think that's something they can definitely work on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
AI,
you
so
get,
they
you
can
have to
make
do
look
all
at the
these.
usage and especially with AI, they can look at my usage and make the phone learn to open, based on my
Mm.
usage, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that the OEMs, everyone needs to be really thoughtful about the use of the AI.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'll make a real quick comment here about Galaxy AI. And this isn't a knock on Galaxy AI. This is a problem everyone has. If you don't do it right, you get notified all the time. It's like false alarms in security, and also misguided actions. You get annoyed by all these recommendations and offers on the phone for things you don't want done, and it's simply because although the agentic framework you might have theoretically can drive convenient outcomes or proactivity, that's not always the case, right? And people will shut this stuff down as soon as the system starts to annoy them with a bunch of notifications. Something I noticed at Apple Intelligence. It's something that I'm noticing with One UI 7 and 8, and where I'm actually turning off notifications and features because I don't want to be bothered. And so this is something that I think the industry needs to grapple with, is that the over personalization may actually turn into, and if it's not done well, it will turn into an inconvenience. And so, I haven't been impressed with any of these implementations thus far. I think everyone still has a lot of work to do. But that being said, there are certain AI features that are, let's say, utility based, that are pretty solid and are useful. It's just that we're not at that agentic phase yet, right? Where the agents or that agentic framework is able to deliver that level of accurate personalization that actually, translates into convenience. And so I'm going to be interested in, as I'm sure you are, in seeing how everybody evolves this stuff. But my observation is there's still a lot of work to do. Right.
It's everybody's on a learning curve, right? It's a learning curve for sure. I'm on the other side. I would rather need more notification than less. So,
Really? Wow.
which is sometimes which is overwhelming, but I'm actually I'm happy with the notification. Some are trivial. But the moment I'm hoping
Right.
the device quickly learns the ones I'm not looking and clicking on, and then not show them in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
Uh, but and I know I'm more curious on learning and using these things. So
Yeah.
I would say I get less annoyed with more notifications. Obviously,
Okay. All right. Well,
I
that's going
get
to be a choice that every
yeah,
individual will make. But
yeah.
one of the things I've noticed across the board is that the level of utility is not as high, and but
Mm,
then there's overdoing it, right?
right.
And the consequences of that is all I'm pointing out.
Mm,
Everyone's going
yeah.
to have a different preference, but
Correct.
the
Correct.
other thing is one of the things I've noticed using the device is that the UI is really not optimized for a lot of applications. Surprisingly, like for
Correct.
OneNote, for Buzzsprout, a lot of these applications that I use, even LinkedIn in certain cases,
Mm,
the UI just is not optimally designed for these applications and doesn't present things in a way that I feel is efficient, right? And so there's still a development curve and a learning curve, I think, that
100%.
is
Yeah.
needed. Yeah, yeah. And so
Yeah.
for those who are buying the device and start using it, it's something you'll notice almost right away. And there's certain applications that simply don't work at all. I don't know why, but I'm still trying to
Right.
figure out why.
So a lot of times when I'm in the open forward mode, I use the desktop version for browser
Yeah,
because with the mobile version you don't get the utility of the larger screen because it is still in the phone mode, right? I
yeah,
agree 100% also with most of the application. The worst is LinkedIn. It's like a larger you're not
yeah,
really using it. Is That's what I'm saying. And it's actually a waste of large screen that you have because it's basically blown up. So and
yeah.
no better utility. That's the reason I'm saying you have to be judicious in whether you use the open
Right.
or the
Yeah,
close,
yeah.
because you may not in many applications you may not gain anything by using it in a open
That's
format.
true. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
But
So
not, I also
yeah,
noticed it on the front facing screen as well.
yeah.
So it's not just when you fold it out. And, the other thing I noticed also, if you use the camera, there is a pretty noticeable lag, especially when
Mm,
you're taking videos or what's being displayed on the device is behind where you're
mm.
pointing things on the camera.
Well, yeah.
So, that I think is probably a software update. I don't know. It definitely isn't the hardware or the SoC because Qualcomm, as you and I know, Qualcomm has some serious chops when it comes to the IPU and all the image related
Yeah.
compute. So that shouldn't be the problem. There's probably some fine tuning that needs to happen with the software and the operating system. So.
In terms of overall, price still is a major challenge in my view.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, that's a great point. I think that's one of the biggest sticking points. And there's not a lot that you can do to reduce the bomb costs,
So,
right? That's
so
one of
I
the
think
challenges as well.
in my view, I mean, it is an ultimate productivity device, right? So, which means the biggest market would be enterprises. So, I think Samsung and carriers have to kind of make a good case for the enterprises to make it show the value, and then maybe have some financial deals, long-term contracts, and such. I think that part of the story is not really told well to the target audience, in my view. No, okay, even the advertisements and others say, okay, it's a great device, but $2,000 is a lot of money even for the enterprises. So you have to make a case that how much actually tangible benefits, like how much productivity it can increase for maybe target specific personas in the enterprises, specific functions within the organization, and prove it to them
Hmm.
that this is kind of an improvement you get in productivity. So even if although you're paying this much, the overall TCO is far better for enterprises. So I think that's
Yeah.
what key thing Samsung should do with this phone compared to the previous ones. Because with the previous ones, even when you're ready to give to enterprises and enterprise users, I have known, as I said, I may only use this functionality of wider, bigger screen for 10% of time, but do I carry it all of the time? But that thing is gone, or that hurdle is gone. So I think Samsung should do a better job as through with carriers or even direct to enterprises, in my view.
Okay. Yeah. And my final thought on this device is that it's important. It's actually one where we might see Apple needing to respond with a Fold. Before, I didn't think so. This is a different story, simply from an engineering perspective, largely from an engineering perspective, because one of the things that has been an outcome of this race toward thin and light smartphones has been just amazing innovations in device engineering, and as well as the dramatic improvements we've seen in mobile computing in terms of like the silicon, right? Yeah. These devices really raise the bar, and I think Apple needs to take notice whether they come out with a foldable or not, because what's happening here with the engineering and the technology, in particular, the semiconductor technology, is pretty remarkable and is in all likelihood defining the next generation of systems design for the future of the smartphone. I'm not totally bought into this yet. Quite honestly, I'd rather use a tablet, but that's just me. There are going to be people, like you said, who will use it and find utility in the foldable form factor. The most important thing for Samsung, though, is they've caught up. And this device.
In terms of technology, I think it's making it much more impactful. But S25 Edge is where most of this thin system technology is tested and produced. Because of Fold7, I think S27 Edge was kind of lost its shine a little bit, but a lot of that technology is moving over, right? So it's not the first incarnation as such.
Sure,
and the thin technology, thin device, I mean,
is hella thin.
Yeah.
And you don't need to make it, you don't need to make a slab this thin. This is too thin. I wouldn't want to slab this thin, quite honestly.
Yeah, and it is pretty robust. I was thinking it feels. That's what I meant with.
Oh yeah,
I was thinking
amazingly sturdy.
Yeah, so it feels sturdy. I was thinking that it looks flimsy, but it is pretty sturdy.
No, and then very solid.
Yeah, then I mean, yes, I used and reviewed S25 Edge as well, and there is a lot of commonality in terms of technology, and that thinness is kind of a step towards foldable. So. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that Apple has to reply, and there are a lot of rumors, right, working on slim phones as well as foldables.
Well, they got to figure something out, because this form factor is driving a type of innovation.
Yeah, and overall foldable, I think because of this price tag and the utility of it, it'll still be it'll still be a very important, high value, high margin, but still a small portion of the market. Z Flip 7 has the potential to be a mainstream. Maybe going forward, a lot of mainstream phones will be foldable because you get the same, with no compromise experience, but in a even smaller form factor. So we'll see. But I agree, Fold7 is remarkable for sure.
Yeah. So, hey, thanks, Prakash, for sharing your thoughts on your use of the Galaxy Z Fold7 to date, and I'm sure you're looking forward to your article. So those of you who don't know Prakash, follow him at www.tantraanalyst.com. That's where you can find his research and links to his podcasts, and undoubtedly links to his articles, including the one that he's going to be publishing that shares his perspectives and on his use of the Galaxy Z Fold7. And so, Prakash, again, thank you for showing up and sharing your perspective. And everyone, please subscribe to our podcast, which will be featured on the Next Curve YouTube channel. Check out the audio version on Buzzsprout and find us on your favorite podcast platform. Also, subscribe to the Next Curve research portal at www.next-curve.com for the tech and industry insights that matter. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Goodbye.